Oh yeah, I can put rollerblades.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week we're talking about what it feels like to be Iron Man, Mike.
Ooh, Chris, I recently, just like an hour ago, woke up from like a late morning dream where I was Iron Man. Oh. And I can only assume it was because of Iron Man VR last night. So we'll get into that a little bit later.
We'll talk about that. That's awesome. And no surprise to us, Batwoman has left the building.
Yes, insider information over here.
We've talked about this before, and lo and behold, I think it was like even last week, as late as last week, we were like, yeah, she didn't really like it. And anyway, we'll talk about that later. I think we called this, Mike. Zack Snyder finally gets his Justice League.
Yes, you guessed a very specific of that, and man, that is some monumental news this week. So we'll be talking about that in length.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like our biggest topic here. So everything, I've kind of forgot a lot of this other stuff happened. I had to go back and then look it up. But and more this week, Mike. And more.
Yeah, it is. We are recording this on a Sunday. Tomorrow is Memorial Day, which is kind of the unofficial / official start of the summer. And Chris, you are start kicking it off in style. I'm
kicking it off early. I'll tell you what. It has been so mild weathered here lately, right? Like I could wear like a baseball cut tee and jeans and not feel a thing. Like it was perfect weather. Then I come home and my air conditioner works, but the fan blower that puts the air through the house is completely gone. It doesn't work. It doesn't turn on. I get down. I'm a bit of a techie, Mike. You know this. So they actually have little lights on the boards that tell you the error. And the error is like motor fault. And I'm like, son of a gun. So on Friday night at like 7 o'clock, I'm trying to find someone who can help me.
Oh God, the worst time for anything to fail in your life, kind of in a pedestrian way. Like you don't want your car to fuck up on a Friday night or anything in your house on a Friday night because it's just like you ain't gonna get anybody till like a Tuesday.
Especially on a 3-day weekend. Like it's a 3-day weekend, so Monday's out the gate. So obviously, thankfully, again, the whole thing, the coolant is working because I could see it freezing the coils, like where it's supposed to cool. So that's working. It's just the fan motor. So hopefully, I looked online for parts. It's fairly cheap, and someone was able to get a hold of me, talk to me Friday night. We even FaceTime so I could find the right, part number for him. So I was really thankful for that. So they're going to get a hold of me Tuesday. But in the meantime, the weather decided to go the other way and be 90 degrees and humid.
Oh no!
So yesterday, I think this really happened Tuesday or Wednesday, but we haven't turned anything on until Friday, so I didn't know about it. So I had to go yesterday and buy more fans for my house because we only had one and we never use it because everything worked. So I've got fans blowing out windows to pull in from another window and get like the circulation going. You gotta plan that out throughout your house. The opposite of feng shui, but for air. And then my basement, I think I told you this, we put up some curtains down here because I had a lot of reflection on my TV when playing Call of Duty with you. They're blackout, but they're not, I'm not trying to, I don't use them all the time, but they are also like heat dissipating, like they block the temperature from coming in. So we've been living in my basement for the past 2 days. And I don't know if I've mentioned this as well on the show, but we're putting down flooring in our house, right, in our living room, kitchen. So we had literally, when this happened, right before this happened, we'd moved everything out of the kitchen and living room, so it was just open, minus the couch and the TV. And I'm like, well, we can't live up here right now, so we've got stuff all over the house, and then the air goes out. So I'm just having a weekend, Mike.
And you described this whole situation to me earlier as a ticking clock, because the longer you're on your computer, the more heat it'll dissipate, and it'll just be trapped in this room with you. So as you're listening to the podcast, just listen to Chris's tone of voice and just his overall behavior as the temperature rises on him.
Yeah, and don't take it personally, Mike, or anybody of the listeners. It's not you, it's me. I've got water here, then I've got a cold Smirnoff red, white, and berry seltzer right here, just tastes like a bombsicle, Mike. I'm just trying to pretend I'm eating ice cream of sorts. So I've got that going on. But this week, in the meantime, I've been building up my own personal library of media. You know this, Mike. And I've been putting stuff up here and there and everywhere. But I found a fan project I'm very excited to share with. And it goes into my first topic here. Someone has gotten an early, very early film reel of the Star Wars trilogy movies and have been cleaning them up, de-dusting them, de-noising them, and scanning them into 4K for people to watch online.
That's really great. This is a good opportunity to recommend that Keanu Reeves documentary, which the name escapes me right now, but it's about the difference between physical film and digital film. And I don't understand all the conversions. It's not a one-to-one thing. It's kind of like apples and oranges. But yeah, you can go back to older film and you can convert it to 4K. And it's not really, there's not really like an upscaling or anything like that. It's just like it's a physical piece of media that you're just like kind of you're just digitizing again. So it's awesome that that's a possibility.
Exactly. And then what they've done is, they've had reels, since it's a fan project, though it's not money, it's free. They've had people donate other copies they found in like archives of these movies to help move it along. People may have heard of the despecialized versions of Star Wars. Are you familiar with those?
I have those on a hard drive. Yes.
Perfect. So those are completely separate from this, but these people, they got it after that Harmony guy was in, so they've given it back to him when they're done for him to despecialize them in 4K if he wanted to use these as a base. So I think that's really cool. So far, A New Hope is completely done. Return of the Jedi is completely done, and they've recently still working on. They even show you their progress on their site. Project 4K 77 was the first one. 83 is the second one. But Empire, they're working on it right now to 4K that one.
That's great. I mean, I don't know if this will be in this version or maybe once it gets handed over to the despecialized guys, but I have such nostalgia for The Empire Strikes Back because it was kind of the first time I ever saw the seams of where the special effects start and where the film is, and not to beat up Empire Strikes Back at all. It was just cool to see like, oh, this is a thing that's actually made when I was a kid, and it's when they're on Hoth and the speeders are going towards the
AT-ATs?
Yeah, I was going to say AT-ATs, but I was like, do people call them AT-ATs? Yeah,
you can call them whatever you want, Mike.
Yeah, and when you're inside of the cockpit, you can kind of see the transition from where the cockpit is, where the actor is, and then where the model is. There's kind of like this, almost like this transition scene where you can see, and it's just like, oh, I love when you watch despecialized stuff because you can see that stuff, because those are the things I saw when I was a kid. So when I rewatch Star Wars, it's great that, Lucas could go back in and like polish all the edges and make it look the way he always wanted it to in his head. But like that's not how I watched it when I was a kid. So I love that people are going back and trying to get the experience back how the people watched it in the theaters back in the 70s.
Well, I've watched it. So there's two versions of every movie, called a digital noise reduction and a non-digital noise reduction version of each of these 4K films. So the DNR, you know what film noise is, Mike? The graininess, the grittiness of it. So,
yeah, isn't like actually like the silver particles in the film that reflect the light?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. You don't get a lot of it on newer digital cameras. The lens, it looks more like a staticky TV, and on old ones it was actually the physical marks from the exposure. So they've actually made a DNR, a digital noise reduction version for modern televisions, because that grittiness doesn't look good on pixel TVs, right? It's made for old, non-pixel TVs. Or if you happen to have an old projector or use the projector style, you can put the non-DNR version on and really get that theater effect going on. So the other thing is I've run across streaming 4K video across a network from one computer to another is no easy task.
I can only imagine.
You'd think, it's just double the stuff from going from 1080 to 4K, but I will tell you this, and Mike, I think we talked about this. A normal 1080 movie file for me is anywhere between 2 to 4 gigabytes, right? That's pretty standard fare. That sounds okay.
That's like an early 2000s flash drive.
Yeah, you can put that on a DVD drive as a data thing, or a DVD disc, and give it to somebody easily. The 4K files are minimum 50 gigabytes and up. So if you think that the simple translation, it's 2 times, so it's double, is what you're getting. It's not. It's actually more like 4+ times of how the scale works and all the data coming through. So it has been quite the adventure to maximize these and watch them. But I've watched. I didn't get a. It's Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary, so I bring this whole thing up, which is an awesome film. Probably again, I think that's my favorite Star Wars. And I couldn't watch it on 4K, so I watched A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. And then I went back and watched the Family Guy version of Empire Strikes Back, which is something Darkseid, which is pretty good.
What a strange Star Wars marathon.
Yeah, it was. That was my week. That's what I got to watch this week. Because I haven't caught up on anything else because we've been trying to, like I said, maximize or minimize electronic devices that put off heat in our house right now.
Smart.
So we've been doing that. And the other thing I did was, again, we'll talk about later, is my PlayStation VR. I've moved it to my guest room. There's no TV, so I just get to play it on the VR headset, which is kind of a smart thing to do. So we'll talk about that later. But I'll let you get into what you're doing because I want to remind me to come back to something before news, Mike. But let's go ahead and get into what you've been watching.
Yes, I can only imagine when I start talking, you're going to mute your microphone and just stuff ice packs inside of your shirt and your pants.
Oh yeah.
So
I've got compression shorts on, probably the least amount of fabric I've ever had on right now. It's wild.
Well, that's great. Well, if we want to stroll on over to Mike's Corn Stream Corner here real quick, I'll catch everybody up with what I've been watching during the pandemic this week. So season 2 of Dead to Me dropped just the other week, and me and my wife finally caught up with that, which is really, really great. It's executive produced by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay. So when you hear those two names, you think you're going to get maybe something really wacky. And this is a little bit more serious. It's definitely more of a dramedy, but I would say it leans more on the comedy side of things. It's really funny. It's a really quick watch, too. So you could watch the first and second seasons back to back pretty quickly. Then my wife had never seen Not Another Teen Movie before, and I saw it was streaming on Amazon Prime, so we watched that one. Nice. And she used to work at the Asylum, which was the movie studio that made tons of hack films kind of in this vein after the trend was popular. So she was really worried, like, hey, what are you about to show me? And I was like, no, this came out a year after Scary Movie, and when I looked it up later, the same year as Scary Movie 2. So this is when these movies were popular and actually people liked to go see them. So I booted it up, and while it was while we were getting the credits rolling through at the beginning, I was just like, I don't think anyone's really in this movie. I don't really remember any actors. And she recognized the starring actress right off the bat because she was in multiple seasons of Grey's Anatomy. And then just a few moments later, we see crazy Randy Quaid pop up from Christmas Vacation. And then we see Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother. I don't know the actor's name. He's just Ted Mosby to me. Mm-hmm. He's briefly in it. And then, bam, I totally forgot. I can't believe I didn't remember this. Chris Evans is the other lead in the film. And I was like so shocked. I was like, oh, shit, it's Chris Evans. So that was really great. And
he wears the whipped cream bikini in this one, which I will never forget.
And he definitely dyes his hair very black, which is very strange to see. I don't know why his character needed to necessarily have black hair. But the movie still relatively holds up. Some of the jokes are dated, but some of the just over the top, just zany comedy, if you will, is still really funny. So I would recommend Not Another Teen Movie. Set your mind back to the early 2000s when Scary Movie was a thing, and you'll get yourself in the right mindset.
Well, a lot of those movies that parodies are the 80s and 90s films. 10 Things I Hate About You. Say Anything with the Boombox. Like the parodies of that movie aren't necessarily of that era, but even later back to things that you would probably know and recognize, at least those scenes as parodying.
There's lots of puns like oh God, who's the guy who directed all of those 80s teen movies?
Oh, John Hughes?
The high school is called John Hughes High, and then they even named the cafeteria after like an 80s star, but I can't remember what the pun is. So go watch the movie to see whatever that pun is, but it's still really funny. I really like it. And then move back on over to Netflix and watch Patton Oswalt's new stand-up special. I believe it's called I Love Everything. I just guessed right off the top of my head, but if you just search Patton on there, just look for something from 2020, that's it. I want wanted to tell you, Chris, to watch it because he has like a really funny original bit about something that I have no connection to, but I thought was really funny. About once you get a house, you have to deal with the craziness of subcontractors, and this is I have no basis of whatever these people do, but he explains it really, really well, and he talks about how interesting and quirky subcontractors are, which sounds weird. It sounds like I'm definitely not selling a stand-up special. You don't have to own a house, but there's a lot of very clever stuff, and he also has another really funny bit about Denny's. So if you love Patton Oswalt, the guy who cameos very often in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is very famous for his MCU filibuster.
Yeah, he was also he where he combined Star Wars and the MCU and I believe some other Disney stuff. And he also was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. As a life model decoy for a few seasons.
Yeah, and doesn't he like come back as like a real person and has like a twin or something? I don't know.
I think they're all robots or something like that, and they don't tell you that. But he has the badge. He's like, "Do you have a name badge? Do you have the pass?" So I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah, so go check that out. It's really, really funny. And then thanks to Chris's ingenious Plex server over there, my wife and I were able to check out Jumanji 2, The Next Level. And I was really happy to see at the end of the film that they have set up a third film, which I'm looking forward to see where that third film is going. No spoilers, but I mean, Sony's going to keep making these because it's one of the few film franchises Sony has that's making money. So who knows whenever we'll get around to seeing it due to the pandemic. But it's nice. I was able to just kind of stream it in the comfort of my own home.
Well, you know what I would really like to see, and I think this might exist in some sort of way, but like, wouldn't a Jumanji video game that like it's like you're playing the board game on a video game, but they can make all this crazy stuff happen in the game because you're really like they don't have to worry about real life board games. I don't know, something like that.
So you're saying like a game that us humans in the real world can play,
yes.
Jumanji video game. Doesn't that exist? I feel like I played that on like Super Nintendo or something.
Well, they do, but I mean that one's like you're playing like the board game Jumanji and things happen. Like I don't know, something you're playing like Monopoly, or you lost some money or something like that, but like, oh, the monkeys attack, and like you literally have to dodge monkeys while you're playing the video game.
I see what you're saying. So the game kind of starts off as like a standard like digital board game, but then all of a sudden like the camera in the video game pulls back and you're actually controlling a character.
Yeah, and like the things are happening to you around it.
That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty meta.
Because I know like these games or the new movies are based on Jumanji the video game in it, but like it's like you don't see the video game portion as much. You see the characters. Like it looks like a real movie. So I don't know. It was something I was thinking about the other day when I was thinking about Jumanji.
Yeah. But I thought shout out to The Rock and Kevin Hart for doing a pretty good job at playing like old kooks. I like the old kook segments the best in that movie, so I would recommend it just for the old kooky stuff. And then there's like there's some like body swapping that happens, and other people get to be old kooks. So I was like, props to everybody who was acting like old kooks. So yeah, that's the Mike's Quarren Stream Corner. I know you wanted to jump into something real quick, but I gotta tell everyone out there that I'm recapturing my youth, and I ordered some rollerblades yesterday. I felt like I really needed to tell the audience that I'm really leaning into summer 2020, trying to find some things I can outrun the COVID virus with, and that is some rollerblades. So my wife and I got some rollerblades showing up in the mail, hopefully in a couple of days.
Well, do you have safety pads, Mike? Is what I'm going to ask you first and foremost.
I'm too cool for safety pads, but my wife did break her elbow ice skating a couple years ago, so I might get some for her.
Yeah, okay, then secondly, is your insurance up to date?
It is. Okay, good. I'm good to go.
This is like all the people who are going to go pick out their skateboards once the new Tony Hawk game comes out this fall. Like, I remember skateboarding.
Chris, I did have some self-control because I'm very much a researcher. I like to do my homework and do deep dives into things before I spend my money. So I did do a brief rollerblade deep dive, and you can get rollerblades now. I mean, when I was a kid, I'm sure they existed, but my parents were never going to get me these. You can get rollerblades with less wheels, but then the wheels get larger, so you can go faster because there's like less friction with the ground, and like you're higher off the ground, and it's harder to like to stabilize yourself, but you can go faster. And I was like, this close to like buying these really irresponsibly fast rollerblades, but I took a step back and I was just like, no, I don't want to kill myself or my wife, so we opted for the more standard 4-wheel, 80 millimeter sized rollerblade wheel to start with. But the recommendation here is if anybody else is trying to seize their youth with rollerblades, don't go on Amazon if you have normal sized feet. They're all sold out everywhere. Everybody had the same idea I had this weekend, was get rollerblades. But I was able to find one pair on Dick's Sporting Goods, which seems a little on the nose. Of course, they'd have rollerblades. But I was able to find my wife's, oddly enough, on Lowe's.com. I had no idea Lowe's even sold rollerblades, but I was able to get them there. So hopefully in a couple days, we'll be blading around the hood.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got subcontractors at Lowe's, Mike. They're selling those things. So you should know all about that now.
There you go, the rollerblade subcontractor.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to get in before we got into this, we talk every week. Me and Mike, we used to just, text each other, do this, but now we play video games. And this week, Call of Duty added a new mode called Warzone Classic.
I was hoping we'd get to talk about the Call of Duty updates this week.
Yeah, so Warzone Classic is essentially, Warzone has some special features where you can buy loadout drops or buy bonuses. You go to the Gulag. If you win your 1v1, you get put back in the battle.
Basically, plenty of opportunities to boost your stats throughout the game or have extra lives. If you're not familiar.
you can really prolong a game and how long you're in it by this stuff. Classic is none of those things. You drop with just your fists. You pick up all your guns. You can't buy anything. You can't upgrade. You can't get bonuses. Everything you have to get has to get off the ground. And no one has any perks.
No coming back from the dead.
Nope, not at all. We learned that the hard way a couple times. But I tell you what, me and Mike jumped into this. Was this our first game we played?
Yeah, the first game we played.
We won. Straight up. It's trios, teams of 3. We're just a team of 2. Little old us came through clutch on this mode, and I'm so thrilled.
Yeah. And I must stress, I am not very familiar with Battle Royale games, so there's a chance that somebody else out there listening is not familiar with them. It's really hard to get the W because you're going up against a huge lobby of like 150 people, and there can literally only be one winner. It's not like when you're playing like a multiplayer match on like Halo or something, and it's just like you got a 50% chance of winning. We have like a infinitesimal chance of winning. So it was my first W on Call of Duty Warzone. It was very fun. So it's been a very engaging week on that.
Yeah, well, the other thing is they opened up these secret bunkers in the game finally, and of course, what do we do, Mike? We want to see what's in these bunkers, of course. So we go for the legendary Bunker 11, which includes a blueprint for a gun and a bunch of cash. And we were able to do these things where you have to go to these first phones and get a code. If you're lucky, and if you get the code, you have to go to 3 more phones to unlock the Morse code, and then go to the door and unlock it.
Yeah,
and we were able to do it.
Yeah, I have to say I've never done anything quite like this because you're doing all this secret Easter egg stuff while there is a normal game going on around you. So anyone can easily pick you off or kill you, or you're competing against other people to try to do this Easter egg. And I thought it was really cool that somebody at Call of Duty was just like, no, we're going to have the person on the phone read the secret code in Russian. So you have to learn your Russian digits, and you have to pull out, like, you have to have like a phone open so you can like translate the Russian to English. And you're just like, wait, like 5 and 6 sound a lot like each other. Or is it 6 and 7 that sound a lot similar? And then like sometimes you listen to this phone recording like 8 times in a row, and you're just like, I have no clue what this second number is. I'm looking at all the numbers here. None of them sound like this. So it's pretty fun, and I like it because it forces you to really cooperate with your team.
Yeah.
A lot of the times in these Battle Royale games, you can kind of get by on kind of like lone manning it or just kind of tangentially being near your team and just support them if they get under fire. But in this mode, everybody has to communicate. You all have to go to your points. You all have to synchronize. And then once you get all that done, you have to hope nobody kills you on the way to the bunker. So this is just another recommendation for Call of Duty Warzone. It's just really, really fun. It's just like you got to get through a lot of the mechanics and kind of figure out how all the little tweaks work. But, man, I got nothing but time during this quarantine, so I'm glad I've been able to dive into something like this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. You pick it up, you play a round or 2, you walk away. It's not like you have to go in and beat at it every day. Like you're almost to level 100. And or like tier 100, and you haven't put any money into it. You've just been playing casually with us, so it's very easy to level up and enjoy the rewards without having to make it a daily kind of grind, if you will. So
yeah, it's a great time.
But we had that win, and it was Mike's first win, and I was like, we got a shout out this weekend.
Felt good.
It was a good time.
Felt good.
Good time. All right, so we're going to jump into the actual news here this week because I said I wanted to keep this short, and here we are 24 minutes into this. Yet to begin. So the Umbrella Academy dropped a surprise announcement video, a quarantine teaser, if you will, for Season 2, being released July 31st.
Yeah, and if you were a regular listener to the Superhero Slate podcast, we reported on a rumor, I can't remember if it was earlier this year or maybe late last year, that this is when we would be seeing Umbrella Academy. So you got to subscribe to stay in the know. So I'm very happy that we have this coming here in July because not a whole lot to look forward to this summer when it comes to media. So I'm glad we're kind of getting some meaty kind of comic book superhero stuff happening in July.
Well, what's great is, again, the first Umbrella Academy took some liberties with the comic book. The ending of that does not match up with the comic book, so no one knows where Season 2 is going, and I just love not knowing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being surprised by this and enjoying the show because, I like the characters. I like everything about it. The mythos is great. This world, so I'm really, really excited for this. And they used the song from the first season. I think it was the first episode, wasn't it?
What is it like? I think we're alone now, which fits really well because this announcement video is just all of the cast in their own socially isolated apartments that they obviously just sent the video off to some Netflix editor to piece together. Yeah.
You brought up a good point here. We could tell who everyone is except for Diego because he just looked normal. He
just looks like a normal dude off the street when he's not in costume. So I guess Diego's not going to be hounded if he gets really famous because no one's going to recognize him.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to see that. I'm excited for this. So we've got 2 months until then, but I mean, who knows? We've got a date, and let's watch it. Batwoman shakeups on set here. Ruby Rose has left the show after literally the season 1 wrapped on Sunday, and then they announced this right after, and she'll be recast for Season 2, the character of, I think it's Kate Kane, who's Batwoman. So we will get a new Batwoman for Season 2.
Yeah, there's kind of two narratives out there in the world right now. One of them kind of popped off on Twitter over the weekend where somebody was saying like, hey, don't be so hard on Ruby Rose. Remember she injured her spine and then some other PA was injured on set. She obviously left because it was a dangerous work environment. But then there's this other narrative out there that says she was incredibly hard to work with. She never showed up on time. She was incredibly rude to people and nobody liked working with her. So usually what happens out in the world when you're looking for truth, kind of look maybe somewhere in the middle. So maybe she was indeed hard to work with, and then also, if she wasn't having a good time there and also there was a chance of her getting injured, she might as well leave the show. The one thing I wouldn't agree with is some people were just like, people don't realize how hard it is to be an actor. Really long hours, a lot of work to put into. It's just like no one cares. Nobody has sympathy for people that get to be famous and rich. So Ruby Rose was already famous and rich when she took the role, so I don't really think that's part of it. But over here at this podcast, we don't really watch Batwoman. No. So if she's recast, I mean, it sounds like maybe that's a good point to jump in and start rewatching or start watching the show from there because I have not connected to Ruby Rose's Batwoman for myself.
Well, I think the other thing is, we talked about last week is the upcoming crossover on the CW is Batwoman and Superman and Lois. So will this affect that? Probably not. But again, I know they've recast people in the Arrowverse shows before and moved along, and I don't think it'll affect business as usual for them. It might even be better. Hell, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, before this news dropped, I was kind of just perusing online the other day, and I saw somebody put up an article of everything we know about Bruce Wayne in the Arrowverse. So I was just kind of scrolling through there, and somebody has kind of digged up all these Easter eggs. A lot of it came from Batwoman. But it's cool that, they are, telling a story where Bruce Wayne does exist and no one really knows where he went, which kind of makes me look forward to maybe an eventual crossover down the line where maybe Bruce Wayne comes back or maybe they do some investigative work to find out where he went. Maybe they'll get to cast him and maybe we'll get to see a legit Batman on TV, for the first time that's, not Gotham.
Well, I'm gonna throw a spoiler alert at you for Batwoman season 1, Mike. Okay. The end of season 1, they give this character Hush Bruce Wayne's face. So they've already technically cast Bruce Wayne.
So
in Batwoman.
Okay. Well,
That was literally the end. That was literally the end of the season. Like that was how it ended. So this guy's gonna go around pretending to be Bruce Wayne next season. So they already have an actor for it. Now, does he know? I don't know. Again, I don't know the details. I'm not going to. Does he know he's Batman? I don't think so. But he has a personal vendetta against Bruce Wayne as a person. So who has been missing. So I think you're right. We're gonna see something official probably next season for this.
Well, I mean, that's cool. I mean, as we know, a lot of people tune into the Arrowverse when there's kind of big reveals or crossovers. So obviously they're going to need to keep doing that to keep people interested in. So yeah, if I see like a real cape and cowl Batman next to a Batwoman, I'd tune in for that episode even if I don't watch the show.
Would it make sense for them to do it in their crossover because Superman will know Batman's real identity?
I mean, maybe. It almost seems like too soon, though, right? It seems like maybe you kind of draw it out a little bit longer.
Well, that's in 2022 or like 2021. Like, could be summer of 2021 before we even see this. So would that be the thing to get you back? Like, hey, our Arrowverse saying, we've lost Arrowverse, but hey, guess what? We've got actually Batman and Superman together on TV.
I mean, that would be really cool if we kind of finally got like a real core, quote unquote Justice League on the TV screen, because they've been like hemming and hawing and going around it for a lot of years now. Probably because they had to. They didn't have any other choice. But I just looked up the face of Bruce Wayne from Batwoman, and yeah, he looks like a Bruce Wayne. I think he could be a Batman. So good on them. Well, but yeah, I'd love to see Batman versus Superman redone on television.
Well, that's funny, Mike, because guess what's happening next summer? We get to see a real life Justice League yet again.
Man,
what a journey this has been.
This has been insane. Chris, I don't know if you remember this when you were waiting in line for Hall H at Comic-Con
San Diego?
last year.
Oh, God.
Do you remember the plane
Yeah.
that flew around with the banner that said release the Snyder Cut? I couldn't even believe it. I was in line for the Rick and Morty panel with a friend of the show, Quentin Parker, and we looked up in the sky. We're like, oh, my God, what is this? And it's shocking that it worked. Oh, my God.
Well, I don't think I don't think the fans did this at all, Mike. Again, we've talked about this for a long time. So, in short, Zack Snyder is getting his Justice League cut released. But it's only going directly to HBO Max. This is not a theatrical release. This is not a big push. It's got they're giving him like $20 million to finish it or something like that. Is what I've heard.
The reports are anywhere from 20 to 30 million. No one knows for sure, but that's the range that's been reported.
So I believe this is an HBO Max push for next year. I think people who are going to join it or have joined it. Again, I already have because of the low rates they threw down. But they maybe we've talked about what content do they have to launch with, Mike? Anything good? Anything new?
There's a romantic comedy from Anna Kendrick that's launching HBO Max, and that's about it. The headline coming up this week when HBO Max finally drops on Wednesday, indeed, for a fact, will be Friends Returns. You can now watch Friends during your quarantine. No one's going to be talking about any of the new exclusives.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not really a lot of good exclusives out there, but they're giving us a launch, something to look forward to next year. Again, I know it's next year. I know it's a Snyder cut, but like they're still like, hey, even next year we're putting some faith in this service, right? We're not just going to swap it out within a year, kind of like what they did with DC Universe a little bit. So they're giving us something in a year, but like again, I think this is only to push that, and I think that's really like, hey, we can't make anything new right now. So why don't we take what we have and put it out there in this cut? Because again, they're just to point out, they're not doing any new reshoots for this movie at all. No actors are being brought back in for this.
As far as we know, because unfortunately right now we only have so much information with what's coming out of, I think, the Hollywood Reporter article that kind of had a lot of the details about it. I think the great thing about this is like everybody was wrong, but everybody's right at the same time. The fans wanted the Snyder Cut released. They were just like, we want to see Zack Snyder's vision for this film. We don't want what Joss Whedon gave us. Give us the Snyder Cut. in reality, after seeing all of this news come through, the Snyder Cut never truly existed. When Snyder was working on the film, the first cut he had was basically the assembly cut. All of the footage he shot in chronological script order, which I believe clocked in about like 4 hours, and he knew he wasn't going to be making like a 4-hour film.
Per his announcement video, he said we've only seen a fourth of what he shot for Justice League.
Yeah, which makes sense because, when you film a movie, you film everything because the movie really takes shape, in post-production.
Yeah, exactly. And, if they had to adjust it, not because Joss Whedon wanted to adjust it, but because probably the executives like, hey, we don't want this, make it this before it releases, he would have probably had to film a lot. And knowing the mustache, mustache gate from whenever it came out and stuff like that. There's a lot that was redone, a lot that's happened. I know that, again, we're kind of going all over the notes here, but like there's footage in the trailers of, Cyborg playing football, the Flash, and what's her name? His love interest, Iris West. Like there's a bunch of stuff they cut out of this movie that we never saw that was in trailers. So there's a potential, of seeing almost a whole new movie all around.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is like there was never like a finished Snyder Cut that was on a shelf, and they chose to go with the Joss Whedon's like finished interpretation. So that rumor has kind of been dissuaded. So let's not just assume that they were just holding on to a hard drive and not giving it to the fans. Like you said earlier, he needs $20 to $30 million to finish this cut. Now, from my point of view, I have seen the extended cut of Batman vs Superman. I saw Man of Steel. I watched Justice League. In my personal opinion, I don't think any more money thrown at Zack Snyder is going to fix Justice League, just because I've seen his other work in the DC universe, and I'm personally not a fan of it. But I am very excited for this because this is kind of unprecedented. We have seen director's cuts. There's even like a Richard Donner cut for Superman out there, but these are all like just minimal things. These are just basically just different cuts of the film. Things moved in different directions, or maybe like in the case of like Blade Runner, there is a narrator, there isn't a narrator. Things like simple like that. Usually just things like if you watch the special features on the DVD, there you go, that's your director's cut. Just imagine those in the places of the scenes that were cut out. But this is a totally different thing, a totally different beast. And it sounds like Zack Snyder was really talking Warner Brothers language when he brought people back out to his kind of Hollywood secret mansion bunker film studio to film it to executives, because after he showed it to them and they were talking about the Snyder Cut, he floated the idea of he wanted to do it kind of in episodic chunks, which is exactly what a streaming service wants to hear. We want to hear multiple pieces of content that you can deliver to us, and if HBO Max, kind of keeps in the vein of HBO at heart and releases stuff weekly, come on, cut this thing into 4 or 5 chunks. You got an entire month of media around your streaming service with the Snyder Cut.
They won't cut it. They'll do one and done on the movie. They'll do so much push for this one movie, but if you cut it up, you're gonna have people rioting.
I think they'll cut it up because they want Zack Snyder's vision, and he already said, Snyder himself floated the idea and says he likes the idea of possibly doing it in narrative chunks. Either way, it's gonna, whatever way it gets out there in the world, it's just an interesting experiment if we get to see what happens when a director gets to go back to his movie with more money. I just think this is going to be such a fun thing to look at under under a magnifying glass, just to see, okay, what changed from the original movie? How much is the narrative going to change? How much is he going to be able to add? How much of this post-production money is going to go into fixing things versus adding and creating new things? Because we all saw what Steppenwolf looked like in the movie. He looked like CGI garbage. So how much money do you use to make him look like less garbage? Do you just cut him out of the film more? How much is he going to be playing with the desaturation sliders? Is he going to move away from Whedon's colorful Superman and go back to the way he shot Superman before? There's so many questions.
Well, the thing is, I don't know if they can even use that Superman, because if that Superman is the one with all the mustache CGI'd off his face, which a lot of it was, I think there's a whole Superman subplot we don't see. I think the movie will change substantially. Again, the actor who voiced and played Darkseid, Ray Porter, has been revealed. Like, he was under NDA for 4 years until they literally he could say it this week for the first time ever. So there will be Darkseid in this movie for the first time ever. But the other thing is, I kind of this is not the first time this has happened in DC. I don't know if you're familiar with the Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, which is, again, I think Richard Donner did the first Superman and then the second one, but the second one he was fired in the middle of the project and replaced, and the second guy rewrote and reshot essentially a huge portion, over half, to receive the director's credit. So in the 2000s, when they did the Richard Donner cut, it was essentially that director's original vision with all his footage that he shot for this, like a bunch of this footage by the director. So I think DC has a history of doing this, and that's what we're not seeing right now. Like, we're looking because there's been a huge blow up of the internet with this, but like the Richard Donner cut is essentially the same exact thing that happened in the mid 2000s without the internet, essentially clamoring for this. But I will tell you this, I think we both agree, Mike. You put lipstick on a pig, guess what?
I ain't kissing that pig.
It's still pig. I don't think there's any amount of change for Darkseid, for Steppenwolf, for adding in characters such as Martian, Manhunter, or the Atom, which we weren't even introduced to beforehand. It just doesn't feel like, in 3 Snyder films, has he earned a Justice League by the third one? And yeah, I don't think he did.
Yeah, I don't think he did either. Everything was rushed up until this point because they wanted to catch up to the MCU. The only kind of hope I have is, I believe when we reviewed this film, either you agreed or you floated the same idea as me, that it really should have been Cyborg's movie. He was really the connecting thread for these mother boxes and all of these characters coming together. So if Snyder can lean into that, maybe that was his original intention. If we can really bring Cyborg forward, and if there is a possibility of, quote unquote reshoots or adding new scenes, Cyborg would be the best character to do it with, because he's entirely CG from head to toe. You don't even need to bring that actor in. You don't even have to capture his face. They probably already have a 3D scan of it. You just need to get him in a voice booth to add dialogue. So if they wanted to add brand new scenes that had never existed before, he would be the character to do it with. So if they could focus the movie around him, or focus the mini series around him, whatever it ends up being, that would make me a little bit more hopeful.
Well, again, like I said, they've announced that this is, the Snyder Cut will. I'm pretty sure. I'm not gonna ever float the idea that it's gonna be a movie, but I'm pretty sure that the entire movie Snyder wrote was around Cyborg. Knock on wood. So because a lot of that footage, remember they closed a whole town to film a football scene of Gotham City versus Metropolis, and Cyborg was the football player. So I'm excited to see what they can do with what they have and how this turns out. But at the same time, I'm not oh my gosh, this is going to change the world, I want more. Because apparently the deal is also that this is a one and done deal for him. Zack Snyder is done with DC after this movie, completely wrapped up.
I also think it's important to note, when Release the Snyder Cut hashtag was invented, I don't think the idea of HBO Max had existed yet. Yeah. So the fact that people wanted this Snyder Cut to release, it wasn't going to happen without a streaming service. And this just goes back to an overarching thing. I always talk about this on the show, is competition is good for consumers. The fact that we have all of these streaming services competing with each other is why we get weird stuff like this. The fact that Zack Snyder would get more money and be able to go back into his movie and make a possible mini-series of characters that are probably essentially dead moving forward. Affleck's probably never going to be Batman again. Yep. Henry Cavill is moving on to other lucrative franchises. Everybody loves The Witcher. He's probably, I'm sure he'd love to come back to Superman, but it seems like they may retool that to begin with. But so it seems like moving forward, all these characters are dead in the water. So it's just strange that, the streaming service got the cash to do it, so we're moving forward.
Well, again, it's HBO. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a streaming service, but I think it's a interesting ploy. Be look, you want to watch this Snyder Cut? Guess what? You can't anywhere else. I don't even think they'll put this out for purchase until several months after it's on streaming. If you can even purchase it, they may only keep it streaming. To hold it tight. But that brings me to the next point, Mike. You bring the good point. Competition is great, but what the awful part of this thing is now everyone wants a fucking director's cut of everything in the world, of directors that have been fired or didn't get what they wanted at the end of the day, which is, that's part of business, being a director, So there's a swelling of people requesting director's cuts. The Suicide Squad with more Jared Leto. There is Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. Wouldn't you love to see his version of that?
Ooh, wow.
Paul Feig's Ghostbusters. Those are the 3 biggest ones I've seen this week. I think there's several more out there, but like
I saw the Suicide Squad one was swelling just a little bit because David Ayer put out like a moody like black and white photo of Jared Leto's face.
He's been doing what Zack Snyder's been doing for years with this Snyder Cut thing.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god, like just. You know what? Go ahead. Put out the Suicide Squad Ayer cut. Put out the Ayer cut. Everything in its an entire Ayer glory, and then you're gonna see James Gunn's Suicide Squad come out, and people go, "Oh, actually, no. That is how you make a Suicide Squad movie. This is actually really really effective for all the characters in the comic books." So, like your director cut it's not gonna save a bad movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's gonna change. Like everyone's excited about, again, new content and new interpretation. What didn't we get? But that doesn't make it better at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, are we gonna get the who did the Solo movie before they got fired? Are we ever gonna see that one next? Like it's not making it better.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing what was it? It was the
Lord Miller.
Yeah, Lord Miller. I mean, that doesn't exist anywhere because they were filming for like a week or two, maybe.
No, they were almost done.
What they were?
Yeah, I don't think they were over done, halfway done. And then
that's
Ron
right.
Howard had to step in and finish it on time.
Oh man, yeah. Where's the Lord Miller cut? That's the one hashtag I think I could get behind because look at Lord Miller's film history. It's very effective. A lot of things that I really, really like. So I would really love to see their cut. But yeah, I think Disney's a little bit more buttoned down. They're not going to let stuff sneak out.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think a lot of stuff's deleted and it's not needed. Again, we get again. I'm going to talk about just an example. Marvel. There's never been a director's cut of Marvel. There's never been an alternate cut of any of these movies. Like you get what you get, and because again, someone's helming that ship and knows what they're doing. We don't need those, I don't need another End War, or Endgame and Infinity War. Like I don't need those. Like I love
End War. That's the knockoff version of Endgame.
Well, that's when they release them as a 2-pack, Mike, together.
Yeah, there you go.
get End War. So this director's cut things is a dangerous, slippery slope because a lot of these people who think they have an awesome version is better than what they got out there because they're slighted by the movie studio isn't going to change anything. Especially Fantastic Four. Good God. But anyway, HBO Max is dropping May 27th. That's Wednesday, Mike. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm locked and loaded into my $11.99 a month for however long. But some of the Looney Tunes episodes, the full versions, are already starting to debut on YouTube to get people hyped for this.
Yeah, I saw some people sharing some screenshots and clips on Twitter. It looks really fun. There's some haters out there, which I'm on no specific side of Looney Tunes myself. I'm very agnostic. But I guess some people go like, "Oh God, they turned the Looney Tunes into a Flash cartoon." But then it's not made with Adobe Flash. It's not made with Adobe Animate. It's it's made with a totally different software and program. So
but it's also
I guess.
But it's also the classic Looney. Like this is exactly what the 1950s Looney Tunes look like.
Yeah, it's really cool, and the funny thing is, I think some people forget that Looney Tunes exist, like every couple of years because they've been rebooting and bringing back Looney Tunes over and over again. So it's cool that they're bringing it back with kind of these classic designs. So yeah, I would check those out even without HBO Max. So dive on over there to YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I watched. There's a Daffy Duck one I watched, and it was definitely super entertaining. And to see the old, wacky Daffy Duck, and not the self-righteous one that's floating around from what was that movie, Space Jam or whatever. So. Also, I think my other computer just made a noise in the middle of all that, so I apologize.
No, I didn't hear anything, Chris. You're just you're in heat hallucinations right now.
Jesus.
Is there a single bead of sweat dripping down the side of your face right now? Because that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah, I feel like I'm under a hot light, in an interrogation room.
The eyes are getting red, but yeah, HBO Max on Wednesday. I'll be there day one for Studio Ghibli films. I also love Anna Kendrick. I make fun of the fact that she launches every streaming service every now and again, but I think she's a delightful actress, so I'll probably watch that too. Finally get to watch the last chunks of Steven Universe that are out there in the world. So I'm all on board for HBO Max.
I think it's got some great options. Again, I like it because anything you get on HBO Now, I think you can also watch there as well. Like
It's all
it's
shared catalog for sure.
Yeah, so I'm excited for all that fun stuff. But also on Wednesday, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. returns for its final season as well. Which it doesn't feel like it's the end of May, but by God, it is the end of May, isn't it?
Here you go. I mean, I've been checked out for a little bit. I think the last I watched S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson came back, but it wasn't Coulson. But now I guess he's got Coulson's memories back in him. But I only watched the first episode of that season. Yeah. I don't know if I'll go back and take the time to catch up. But what sometimes is fun to do is after the series finale air, maybe I'll go back and just watch the series finale and just kind of see the tone that they wrap up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I watched the season where Coulson officially died off in the sunset, which was 2 seasons ago now, not including this one. So the last one and it was the one before, which was a great way to end the show. If they did end the show, and then they got 2 more of these little half seasons, 13 episode orders in the meantime. So I'm gonna probably rewatching the last one and this one kind of coinciding together, and then wrap it up kind of like I did with the Clone Wars.
I would love to see Clark Gregg pop up as even a minimal cameo in the Loki show on Disney Plus. Because if he's kind of bouncing around these like different timelines and alternate realities, like I would love to see him come across like Coulson, and they just have like a brief moment of just like, wait a minute, didn't I like kill you? Or it's like, no, I'm still alive.
Well, the other thing is also this season of S.H.I.E.L.D. deals with time travel anyway, because they were sent back to the 1930s. So if his show's dealing with time travel and alternate universes, maybe he will come across this. Anyway, there's a good setup for that. It's not like it's unheard of. But that comes out on ABC this Wednesday. I think it's a weekly show, which got moved up to Wednesday. It wasn't the Friday, the Deathly Friday slot for TV shows. So good for it. A little sidestep here onto Disney Plus with the Mandalorian, Mike. We talked about this a little bit over I think we were playing games or something. But one of your favorite actors, Timothy Olyphant, will apparently, according to this, be wearing Boba Fett's armor in this show.
Oh, Timothy, what you doing in that armor?
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense because they talk about Boba Fett, or at least Jango Fett in the Clone Wars, as a guy that kind of steals the Mandalorian armor. Like he's not an actual Mandalorian. So it makes sense that Boba Fett's armor would kind of just be stolen and worn by other people.
Exactly. So that's the whole thing. He's not actually Boba Fett, because that would be played by Tamara Morrison, who could be in a flashback or something like that. But also he would be playing a character called Cobb Vanth, which is a sheriff of Tatooine's Freetown, which Tatooine's where Jabba's barge blew up, and some Jawas got Boba Fett's armor, either from the ship or from his carcass. I don't know which one at this point.
Oh, I'm already imagining like a scene where like maybe there's some like some aliens that have like this junker barge that kind of lower cables into the Sarlacc pit and like fish out of it to see what they can pull up. Like maybe that's how they get the Mando armor out of there.
Yeah, well, exactly. Or maybe I'm gonna assume maybe he had another set somewhere as well. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I suppose he could have a closet out there with a couple options.
Yeah, because I think the thing is, like, if you did that, would people be upset that, like, oh, it's not really Boba Fett under the armor kind of thing? Like, how would Star Wars fans especially react to that kind of?
I think I would only be upset if we don't get some sort of nod to actual Boba Fett. Like if you're gonna bring back the Boba Fett armor, you gotta give us some more information. Like at least allude to the fact that he did die in the Sarlacc pit, or let us know that he escaped and he moved on to another part of his life or something like that. Don't just bring back the Boba Fett armor and just don't give us any more backstory about the character. That just seems very frustrating to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna do this, you gotta tell us how he got it. You can't just be like, well, he found it on the ground somewhere someday. Maybe Boba Fett's dead. We're not gonna really tell you because we don't want to tell you. So as long as they do it right, and again, I have full faith in the Mandalorian. They keep putting out the documentary series, which are awesome. So I'm excited to kind of see where this goes, Mike. On that. So are you excited to see Oliphant in the?
I'm very excited, and I'm just excited in general that we're going to get Mandalorian in the calendar year 2020 because I was worried it was going to get delayed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, exactly. They're on it. I mean, they've got those big screens, Mike. They can make this without anyone around.
Big screens.
Little fun note for me, because you know me, Mike. Muppets Now, the newest unscripted series from the Muppets, is coming to Disney Plus on July 31st as well, which is cool. This is a 6-episode season, small episodes. That works better for the Muppets. That last version they did with the TV series, like The Office, didn't really work out. But it revolves around Scooter, who has to upload new Muppets episodes to the streaming service, and he's running late. So how's he going to get all those stuff up there, and what do those look like?
It seems like Disney Plus really likes to lean into these meta storylines, because that's kind of what they do on High School, the musical, the show. It's like meta, where like the show exists, but they're living in the world where the movie exists, but they're at the same high school where they shot it. So I guess that's how you pitch a Disney Plus show. You just make it meta, and the executives will want it.
Yeah, but that's also that's the Muppet shtick has always been self-referential and like meta, like parodies and stuff like that. And a lot of their stuff in the meantime between the movies, they did YouTube shorts.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, they were doing YouTube shorts. There's you know the song Popcorn by chance? It's the musical one.
No.
You know it if you heard it, and I don't know how to put it. But the Swedish chef is making popcorn to that song Popcorn, but he's making popcorn shrimp. So he's got popcorn and shrimp, and it's a joke. But then if you turn on the subtitles, the guy writing the subtitles, he's like, I don't even know what this guy is saying. So they actually really reference it. Like we don't know what the Swedish chef's saying. Like, so they just make it up the whole time. It's really funny.
That's funny. I like that.
And then they do what's that Bohemian Rhapsody with the Muppets as well.
Okay, cool.
They got a lot of stuff on there, so check out the YouTube. But I'm excited for this. I love the Muppets. 6 episodes is a great number to start, especially for an unscripted series where it's more sketch based. So sign me up. I'm ready for this. But you knew that. All right, so let's jump into this, Mike. We haven't talked about it. Iron Man VR, the demo officially came out this week. I think just 2 days ago, even maybe on Friday, wasn't it, or Thursday? And this is I got to play the demo at San Diego Comic-Con last year, and I was so excited to bring this home and play this at home now in my own settings, and not like where you're on a timer to do this in front of everybody. And I wanted to share it with you, and you got to play it, so I want to hear your impressions, because I've kind of shared mine a little bit last year. But like, what was your thoughts on playing Iron Man VR for the first time?
It was just kind of really cool to kind of see like a polished experience. The demo is kind of separated in 2 parts. The first part is just kind of a little time trial course of like flying through rings, just to kind of get used to the controls. But I thought where it really shined was the second part of it, where you're kind of doing like a mission that seems like it's possibly in the real game, where you're in a jet, and then shit goes down, and then you're outside of the jet in the armor, and then you gotta defend it, but then you gotta save Pepper, who's like dangling from like some landing gear. So all that stuff was really cool. I think I need a little bit more of an ideal setup if I was going to play this game long term, because it's really a very 360 game. There's things that you need to shoot behind you. There's in order to be able to make turns when you're flying, you have to physically turn your body, or you can use buttons on the controller, which kind of breaks the immersion a little bit for me, because you're just like, oh, I got to find the button on the move controller to turn. So you'd actually have to turn your body. So, but from the way I played it, just kind of see how it went down, it was pretty fun. It made me think of, have you ever seen the kind of Iron Man-esque jetpack that exists in real life? It's like there's some sort of like venture capital company that makes it, where there's literally rocket turbines on your arms, and then they like attach you to a tether, and then you can like fly around and pretend to hover. I don't know if you've ever seen it before.
Yeah, I've seen the water versions too.
Yeah, there's videos of it online where people go, they spend a lot of money to get just 5 minutes in this jetpack suit, and they basically say like, okay, today your main goal is just to hover for more than 3 seconds, because it's that hard to control. So I kind of took that mentality into this game, and it there's definitely a learning curve to it, to move moving around, because you have to position your hands as if they were thrusters, but also you're holding controllers at the same time, so you kind of gotta get a feel for it. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing people play this game after being in it for like 20 or 30 hours, just like how people that are really into Beat Saber are like amazing at it. I'd like to see somebody who like really knows their crap when they're in the Iron Man suit, because I had a little bit of issues moving around, but kind of once I got the hang of it a little bit, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm flying around in this suit. I can like fly anywhere around this plane that I want. I can see the hole blown out in the side. So a lot of really cool details. I'd like to see what they do in the rest of the game, because you get to do lots of interactive stuff, like you have to fix parts of the plane by using your hands to pull open things. So it's a fun experience, but like I said, I woke up a few hours ago from a dream where I was Iron Man, and I can only assume that's because I played this game last night. So really, a lot of really cool stuff here. I wish the PlayStation VR headset had a little bit more field of view, because even though I know I'm in like an Iron Man helmet, so it kind of works, with that excuse of like, oh, well, if you're really an Iron Man's helmet, you might not have the best field of view. But I feel like I need just a couple more degrees on each side. So, we have a new PlayStation on the horizon this year. Maybe there'll be a new VR headset that comes out that has a little bit larger field of view. But as it is right now, I still had lots of fun.
Yeah, so just to let you know, I played this at Comic-Con, and the only thing they gave me is the flying demo around his California apartment.
Malibu house, yeah.
Yeah, Malibu house. And, when you've got pressure on you and a time limit, that level is not very fun. You've got to learn how to punch and fly and move and dodge and duck and everything, and it's not very fun. And then I don't know, did they have the rocket? They didn't have the Stark drones in that level for you to shoot at, I believe. You just flew through you shot the yellow targets.
You shot, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in the one I played, they actually gave you the targets, the drones were actually fighting you at your house there for a couple, but that's all you played. And I think that's fun to fly around and goof around in, because you can go back and replay that once you beat the demo. I turned on the Iron Man 2 soundtrack, which is all AC/DC songs, and flew around, so that feels really fun, which is cool. But I tell you, that first level, and that's the first level of the game, is truly a standout experience in VR. And I agree with you. Like, again, it all depends on how much VR you play. You don't play a lot of VR, Mike, I feel like, as much as I do. So the buttons to turn, that's standard fare across most games. So that to me didn't bother me as much. I think I had more trouble. I wanted to fire my instead of firing blast, which is the back button, I wanted to pull the boost trigger.
Yes, I did that. I did that a lot. And I read online some people were saying, oh, they should give you the option to change the button mapping. But somebody brought up a really good idea. You're mainly using thrusters in this game a whole lot. And the trigger on the move controllers are more constructed for constant use, whereas like the buttons are probably going to hold up better over time for blasting.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was fun. I mean, you have a lot to juggle here, because you have... you can actually use missiles. I don't know if you know this or not. There's a way to use missiles.
I didn't
in this
know
game.
there was missiles.
Yeah, you can change it to missiles. But also there's a supercharged punch, which is another button on the controller, which I didn't remember I could use until I was fighting the larger things at the end there. Around when the jet's crashing and you have these very large things fighting. So I'm punching these, like, it locks on and you charge across and punch, and I'm punching both of them, because your shooting buttons have a cooldown as well. I think it was really fun. I love double pushing the triggers and doing the quick boost, like the turbo speed. What's really fun, it's cool to look at, but I don't think it'll pay off, is the pre-order bonuses for this game, Mike.
Oh, what are those?
You get a bunch of outfits, a bunch of costumes.
I mean, you'd never see yourself
exactly,
in the game,
and I was like, these are so cool, but you don't see them at all. But I'm like, I really kind of like, they're really kind of cool. There's some purple ones. There's one that looks like the Purdue away jerseys is black, white, and gold, which is really cool.
Maybe in the real game, there's a lot of reflective surfaces you fly or walk by, so you just see yourself a lot.
Yeah, it was a good time. I will tell you the one thing I did notice the most. I really love the HUD on this, the Iron Man HUDs.
Oh yeah, when you kind of see like the lines, yeah, you really feel like you're in a suit.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's also not locked to your field of view. It's got a floaty feel to it. So when you move, it moves behind you and then settles into place. kind of like a, it's not like a parallax view, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't, it's not locked to you directly. It feels like a floating AI around you, which is exactly what Tony Stark would make. You know, something that's not, that has that little bit, just a little bit of floatiness to it, that when it lands, it's like, oh, it's not harsh. And I love the little details in this. This feels like a game made with love and not like an Iron Man VR cash grab.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it could have easily have been.
Yeah, we were at the Marvel Games panel at Comic-Con last year, and they brought the developer on stage for Iron Man VR, and he very much talked about how, like, yeah, this isn't like a cash grab. We very much feel like VR can make you feel like Iron Man, and that's what we want to do. So it seems like it's all paying off. I hope it's really successful for them.
Yeah, what I would love to see, and I was talking about this, and I think you kind of brought it up a little bit here, is wouldn't it be cool if they had like I don't know, like a VR handset? You could like put these things in your hands and like have gloves on to do it rather than like the Move controllers.
That would be really cool, because it is kind of strange, because you have to hold something with a grip, but then technically it says like hold your palms out so you can shoot your repulsors, but your palms are never open, so you kind of have to like awkwardly figure out like, okay, well, if my fists point backwards, that means I'll go forward. And
the hands aren't straight with the controllers. You actually have to rotate them in a little bit, like you're in the armor. Like, I don't know if you've noticed that, like the Move controller isn't a straight gun pointing direction. It's very inverted. And I just sent you the images of the armors, by the way.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. Yeah,
they look cool, but again, I'm like, this is fun, but in a first person mode, you would never ever see these armors except for maybe the gauntlets. So I think it's fun. This game comes out July 3rd, 2020. It's $40 for the regular version, which I think is a very fair offering for this, and it looks like it could be a really good time, Mike. I'm excited to see.
I have to say, I thought I was going to get really motion sick, just because I've played a couple like VR demos. Like, they have like a quote unquote demo disc for a lot of VR games for PSVR, and there's like a game where you're playing where you're flying a spaceship, like you're in a cockpit, and I was actually surprised that I got motion sickness extremely quickly doing that type of flying game. So luckily, when I was in this suit, I didn't feel it at all. So if anybody's worried about any of that, it didn't happen for me.
And if you don't have a VR, you can actually buy an Iron Man VR bundle. It comes with all the stuff you need to play VR and the Iron Man game as well. That'll be coming out. So. And then you mentioned the PlayStation 5. This VR version is compatible with the PlayStation 5, so you're not buying it to only use it for 6 months. So I think that's really fun. So I think that's cool, and if you have a chance to try it out, and if you do, let us know. I don't stream games, Mike, but I might stream my Iron Man VR experience just to let people see how cool that is. So
that'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, Spider-Man is apparently has a character named Jackpot that they're making a movie for at Sony, and I don't know what the hell's going on with this, Mike, but
what?
Apparently she's just a superhero with extraordinary strength, and that's it.
Wow, Sony, just make Jumanji 3. Or make a spin-off to Jumanji. Like, people care about Spider-Man. You know, like, don't just do this dumb random... I'm sure the character could be very intriguing in the comic books, but nobody needs a standalone Jackpot movie.
I've never heard of her. All I could think of was Mary Jane Watson's line, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." And I was like, maybe this is related to that. It's not. It's not at all. It's a lady. She has 2 kids and a husband and a family, and but does superheroing on the side, outside of all that. And I'm like, do you even have to make this Spider-Man related? Could this just be like just a standalone movie? And remove Spider-Man's name from all of it, please?
I'm just going to go ahead and go back to something I think you said last week on the podcast, where we said the only thing Hollywood can do right now is make animated TV movies and then put stuff in pre-production. All people can do is pitch and get the ball rolling on things. I think that's just what this is. I don't think this is going to come to fruition. This is just people out there are just trying to get work when nothing's happening. So I would be shocked if this actually ends up being an actual film.
So you're going to tell me you don't want that Madam Web movie at all? Mike, you're telling me?
I 100% want Madam Web in the next Spider-Verse movie, but she does not need her own movie.
Yeah, I agree entirely. So this is wild. I don't know much about it, but it was coming up and people were asking me. I'm like, Jackpot. I'm like, she is a real character, yes. She doesn't have any powers other than she's really strong. So what do you do with that? This is Jessica Jones, pretty much. So
yeah.
Anyway, have you watched the new Tenet trailer?
Oh my God, Chris. It was so cool. I mean, it just kind of reminds you of like Christopher Nolan. I don't want to say at his peak because he's got lots of different types of movies, but this very much takes me back to Inception style Nolan, which is I think where a lot of the mainstream audience really kind of fell in love with him. So, man, I love everything about this. What's the main actor in the movie is something Washington. Is it like George? Not George Washington.
George Washington, yes, the former president.
But I'm pretty sure his last name is Washington. I've seen him in a few things. He's a really great actor, so he looks great in this. And there's so much mystery around it. It has something to do with like bending time, but it's not time travel, but it's going in reverse. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want anything explained to me right now. I'm sure there's tons of people online right now that are theorizing what's going on in this movie, already giving away the twist or the plot. I don't want to know anything. I just want to go into it and to experience it. But I mean, that's the big question: is when do I get to go into it?
Yeah, they have no release date. It says it's releasing in theaters, and the only reason this is releasing in theaters is because Christopher Nolan gets 20% of all box office takes. I don't know if you knew this or not.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
he's poised to make this, especially if he keeps pushing it, to do sooner than later. But I will say the C word I was using for this movie, Mike, is actually confusing, because I want to make sense of it, but I also know Christopher Nolan movies like Interstellar. Again, I'm going to go so far back to Memento. This reminds me more of Memento than Inception, because that was a movie told backwards, which was really fun. So I'm going to feel kind of associated with that. I'm excited for it. It looks good. Robert Pattinson's in it. Usual Suspect. Michael Caine is in it. Looked like who directed Thor? Kenneth Branagh is the villain, I believe. So this looks like a really good cast, a really good shot movie. Christopher Nolan is an artist when it comes to cinema, and I don't think there's anything wrong here. I'm excited to see kind of what the play is, though, here with this.
Yeah, it just looks so slick, and I want to see it in a real theater.
Yeah.
And who knows when that's going to happen. I think somebody out there reported that Christopher Nolan has this desire to be the first like kind of real film people see when they go back to the theater. But the thing is it's just gonna the theater attendance is going to be a slow curve upward. So if Christopher Nolan is really looking for this big bombastic box office return, he doesn't want to shoot for the kind of the first movie people see when they go back to theaters. Like honestly, I think he should probably set his sights for maybe like April or March next year if he really wants to make a big full-fledged return. I just don't think that's going to happen this year. So I mean, hats off to Nolan and this trailer, because it looks slick. It looks fun as hell.
It's wild, definitely wild. So we'll be following that when it comes out. Rick and Morty new episode's still going on right now. I know you're not caught up yet until they're all done. But Justin Roiland was talking in his suggestion for how to release Rick and Morty. It's not gone over well, but he's suggesting releasing TV shows go to one episode a month release schedule, which I thought was a very interesting take on how to release media. Kind of like that. I
guess I got to assume it's because of the crisis that we're in, right? Well, he's not just saying in general, is he?
He meant in general beforehand because of the crunch time to make the episodes. Like, you know how Rick and Morty fans are to begin with, right? So, like, if they're only doing half season here, half season there, if they're doing a month per episode, that gives them time to work on them and get them done, and keeps Rick and Morty, or any show really, year round if they're on a 12 episode.
No, I think Justin Roiland needs to stop worrying about his crazy fans, because they're obviously not going anywhere. So don't. I'm sure it's annoying that he has a Twitter account that is unusable, because I'm sure every time he logs into it, his notifications just fill up of people saying, "When's the next episode?" Blah 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 blah. He just needs to, unfortunately, just step back from that craziness and just make a TV show like a normal person makes a TV show. If people have to wait 9, 10, even 12, 13, 14 months, just do it. People already do it for Stranger Things. People did it for Game of Thrones at one point in time. So he just needs to take that stress off of his shoulders and just do like a traditional release schedule.
I actually think I'm going to go the other way. I agree with him. Once a month for a half-hour cartoon, I think that's good. Like, I want once a month thing very regularly would be great for me. Because I'm like, it's this Sunday, I get to watch, example, again, in this case, Rick and Morty. Like, I think some of these smaller shows that don't rely on the quick narratives can do that. Like, I think this is fine because, Rick and Morty is very episodic and they don't connect to each other very well because that's the whole play on them. I think could benefit from that. And I would like to see some shows go to this format. And I do not think everything does, but also saying that you have to fit what everyone else is doing doesn't work for creative people at that mindset as well. Like, just if you want to do it and they let you do it, let's try it out, because I think there'd be an opportunity here to try something new, especially because we're getting to that point where, they show these on Adult Swim, I believe, but like, if you did it online once a month, that's fine with me. I think there's an opportunity here for different shows to try different release formats.
I mean, if he wants to do this just because he thinks creatively this will be a good idea and he kind of wants to shake things up and, he just kind of wants to, throw his weight around a little bit, yeah, I think that's fine. But he absolutely should not be doing it just because fans are annoyed that they can't get more Rick and Morty. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he wants to do it just because he wants to do it, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that may be what he was saying, because I don't think it was fans like he's just like, I'd like to try this, but, right? I think the whole point when he brought that up was because fans were asking him in the meantime. Like, that's the whole point that he brought it up. It was like, I've tried to do this before.
If any TV show wanted to do this, regardless whether it was animated or Rick and Morty, I would just want some sort of schedule put out ahead of time, because like if you are a grown up that kind of has a sense of time, basically you're not a child, and you watch things on like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, stuff gets randomly released all the time when it's like brand new. You'll get like 3 episodes of Adventure Time like once a month, or you'll get like a random like special of this one thing on Cartoon Network so it's just like the schedules over there are already crazy to begin with. So I suppose if Adult Swim wanted to do that, maybe they could like brand it as a whole thing of like the first Sunday of every month is Rick and Morty from now until the sun burns out or something like that.
Well, I think it, this would help standardize release schedules, though, if they had like, hey, they make them all in the same production schedule, but they've got a month to work on it. Or if something happens and I've seen some stuff where they've made a reference to like some sort of disease, like we have to pull this episode because there's literally a large disease in the world. Like, they could replace it with something that they already have done and keep schedules very consistent. I could even go once every 2 weeks as long as it was consistent, not like, I agree with you, like, hey, remember when Arrow like took a mid-seasons break for like 3 weeks, and you're like, when does the Flash come back? And you're like, I don't know. Here's a random episode, come back in 2 more weeks. You're like, what the hell? That might help with production and scheduling across. I think there's a double benefit for that. So not necessarily you don't do it for the fans, you do it because it's easier for everybody all around. So,
yeah. All right. Well, I'm convinced. I'm curious how this would work.
Yeah. All right, we'll work on it then. I'll call him. I'll call him up after this.
All right, good. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, I'm starting to feel the heat a little bit in here, Mike. I went longer than I said it would, but I'm starting to feel it now. So I'm gonna wrap this up. If people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, make sure you didn't die of heat stroke, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Valdan, VALDAN, or Instagram, Valdan87. I'm going to try to post, that way people do know I am alive for this.
Good.
I'm going to try to, I think it might be cooler outside right now. I'm going to try to go grilling, Mike, this weekend. That's what you do on Memorial Day. You go out and you break out the grill, right?
Damn straight.
Try that out. You also have the Comic UI. If people want to know more about our show, what we're doing, where we're listening, maybe go back and listen to some of those things where we predicted pretty much most of this episode, Mike. Where can they find those at?
As always, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to see that Tenet trailer, if you want to check out the video announcement for Umbrella Academy, or if you just want to see all the bullet points of the crazy Zack Snyder news, just head on over to superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you love to listen to your lovely podcasts. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. We love it when you guys reach out, tell us what you're watching, what you're listening to. If you're playing the Iron Man VR game, do you also find it kind of confusing to fly, or are you a little bit more natural at it like Chris is? Are you more of a Mike or more of a Chris when you're in Iron Man armor? Do you dream that you're superheroes occasionally? I want to hear about people's superhero dreams. This is the one time that it's socially okay to tell people about your dreams and you won't bore them. Let me know if you've ever dreamed that you've been a superhero, because I dream I'm Spider-Man all the time, and it's great. So reach out and let us know. And we love our super fans, and if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, wash your damn hands, and we will be here every week.
Yep, you guys have a great Memorial Day, and we'll catch you next week.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Just in time when they announce the Drew Carey revival for whatever channel it'll be on.